everyone, welcome to my series called Analyzing Christian, where I try to analyze Christian's many patterns, behaviors, habits, and what he is really trying to say at times. And please everybody, keep in mind that this series isn't about finding a definitive answer. It's more like, Chris said something or did something, and here are my views and opinion on that, and what I think it all could mean from my perspective. And lastly, I would never excuse or pardon any of Chris's bad behaviors, because the end result is still the same. Chris still didn't pay any attention to what people told him. He was kicked out of his college campus, banned from his local mall, kicked out of too many games, and then, in 2021, he was arrested for, what he did to his mom. As a lot of people already know, but for those that don't know, there you go. So, what is today's analysis? I'm going to try to analyze why Chris can't be nice. I am as well going to analyze why other people's kindness towards Chris just flies over his head. And especially, unable to be nice to people that did something nice to him first. And why can't Chris make good first impressions? Many people, very simply, put the blame on his autism, and even Chris himself says the same thing. But, in my opinion, I actually don't think so. At least not entirely. In my opinion, I think it is only half true that his autism played a part in it. Only half. On the other half, I think it has to do with his environment, actually. That too, I believe, is the other half to why he can't always be nice to other people. How his parents raised him, and what kind of people he met in school, like classmates and teacher figures and what have you. I am of the belief that it is 50-50, autism versus the environment. That is what I believe are the two main factors to why Chris cannot be nice to people. But why did it end up like this for Chris? Why can't Chris act nice to people that did something nice to him? Or act nice in general? Why was Chris unable to be nice to people? That's what I'm going to try to analyze for today. In the beginning, Chris was born in 1982, and at that point, Chris's mom was in her 40s, while Chris's father was in his 50s. Back when Chris was born, autism/Asperger's syndrome wasn't that well understood, and it wouldn't take until 1988 when the world was exposed to it with the movie Rain Man, starring Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman. And keep in mind, back in those days, there was no internet, there was no YouTube, there was no Wikipedia or anything like that. But, as I was saying about Chris, in his infant years, both of his parents went outside and did some drinking. Frequently, it seems. And so, they left him with caretakers and babysitters, which I think they shouldn't have done, in my opinion. I mean, do you guys remember what I said in the last part of episode 1 of Analyzing Christian? In a nutshell to what I said that when your kid is born, you cannot be what you were yesterday because you are a parent now. You have to steer your kid in the right direction. You should play an active role in your kids' lives and teach them right from wrong, and etc, etc, etc. I said something along those lines. But, to be honest with you, I said those things out of frustration, actually, because I read stories and I've seen and heard about these patterns in the past, where a couple decides to have kids, and guess what? They don't even have half a brain in how to take care of it, or how to deal with the kid's needy demands and manipulative tendencies. Like, some parents' idea of raising their kids, in quotation, is what Chris's parents did. They, in Chris's infant years, would let other people do a lot of the raising and teaching for them, like babysitters and what have you, which I think is quite out of place, actually. I mean, aren't paid babysitters a thing in the past? 1950s? 60s-ish? Right? I mean, there was this one not so little thing that happened in the 1960s called second wave feminism, and it changed everything. And then in the same decade, there was this other, not so small thing called the Civil Revolution, and that too changed everything. And then you had Women's Strike for Equality that took place on August 26, 1970, and you guessed it, that too changed everything. And as a result of these sudden social changes, you could not recommend a woman to work as a homemaker or as a caretaker anymore, because that notion fell out of favor ever since the world went through these revolutions. So what all of this has to do with Chris is, he was born in the 1980s, and so I don't understand Chris's parents' out-of-touch mentality of hiring babysitters. Or, since I live in Sweden, maybe it is primarily a North American thing. Maybe. I don't know. But anyways, as Chris got a little bit older, his parents got a little bit more involved in his life, it seems. And by involved in his life, I mean his parents basically did everything for him. Like, they cleaned for him, dished for him, I think, and they did any other basic house chores, washings, and what have you. And whenever Chris got into trouble, he would tell on his parents, and they would fix that conflict for him. Chris's parents didn't seem to teach Chris how to do these things himself. One example of this is how Chris's father basically paid girls to be friends with Chris, because Chris's dad knows that Chris doesn't know how to play the quote-unquote normal game correctly. Now, one thing that I noticed with some autistics, not all of them, just some, is that they don't play the same kind of quote-unquote game as neurotypical people. And that includes the game of the golden rule: treat others as you would like others to treat you. I think a lot of normal kids knows how to play that, but not all autistics, unfortunately. So sadly, there will be a decent amount of times when an autistic person said or did something to someone, and that autistic person is being unintentionally rude without understanding exactly that they at all said something rude. That autistic may not understand that the word, let's say, shut up, is a bad word, but the autistic person doesn't fully understand that, and may use it very casually to someone, with an emotionless smile sometimes. And the normal person may think, why is he telling me to shut up with a smile like that? Is he trying to mess with me or something? And as a consequence, the normal person may punch that autistic person in the face, and then the autistic person may perceive the whole experience as being a victim of bullying, without even realizing that the word shut up is very much a bad thing to say a lot of times. And this is what I think the problem is for Chris. He doesn't know how to play the quote-unquote normal game, or any other neurotypical game in general, which could explain why he gets angry at times, because half the time he doesn't understand how it should be played, or maybe he just plays it half-heartedly, I don't know. But if no one is going to try to explain to that autistic person, or to Chris, that, that he can't say certain words to certain people, in what tone he or she should be saying that word in, or any other word, and some things in certain context can rub people the wrong way. If no one is going to tell the autistic person or Chris about these things, then naturally, that autistic person or Chris will unintentionally get into trouble without fully realizing why. And he already has, by the way. He already has. But instead of Chris's parents teaching him how words work and how to play the normal game, they took the easy way out. They paid some people to be friends with him, as well as allegedly going behind Chris's back and told some people in advance, please be nice to my son, he's got autism. Have you seen the movie Rain Man? Yeah, our son is something like that. We know our son doesn't know what he's talking about half the time and doesn't know what certain words mean, but can you please just pretend to be friends with him? And sometimes these people would say, yes, okay, we'll be nice. And then years later, Chris decided to rearrange a reunion to meet his gal pals from high school, and allegedly, a troll posting as a gal pal said on Facebook, or I think it was Facebook maybe, and this person said that she was only friends with Chris because she was being told to, or because his dad paid her. And Chris heard about this and asked his mom if this was true, and she said yes. So, those people from back then weren't friends with Chris because they had a legit interest in him. They were friends with him because his parents told them to, or were sometimes paid to do it. And this revelation must have stung for Chris really hard. I mean, could you imagine, like, you know, you have autism, let's say, and you know you can't talk to people correctly. You tried so many times and you keep making a fool out of yourself because society deems your behavior inappropriate. And on a subconscious level, you know you can't make good first impressions. But then, during your first day at school, all of a sudden, a group of people actually comes up to you and they want to talk to you and be your friend. After so many failed attempts, you think that that person or group of friends that went up to you for no reason are your friends now. You think that you're finally made it. In your head, you're thinking, at long last, you finally made a good first impression, you think. And you think a good future is right in front of you, now that you made some lifelong friends. But the truth is that the thoughts and feelings that they have for you aren't actually real. Because years later, you learn that your parents paid people to be friends with you. And yeah, imagine how that stings. Imagine if you have autism, how that can sting for you. And I'm guessing that these revelations must have stung for Chris. Maybe. Some autistics can display feelings just like neurotypicals, even though they actually don't show it as much. But anyways, Chris may have autism, but that doesn't mean he's stupid. He's not. When Chris found out years later that those gal pals weren't really his gal pals, he knows what it means, that their feelings for him weren't real. But if Chris doesn't know that, or acknowledge that outright, then I am very certain that he knows it on a subconscious level. He's not stupid. Chris's parents only had one job: to teach him how to talk to people or coach him. I'm not saying it's simple to be a parent. I'm not saying that. What I am really trying to say is, give a man a fish and he will eat for a day. Teach a man how to fish and you'll feed him for a lifetime. But apparently Chris's parents didn't get the memo, it seems. It seems to have flown over their heads. And Chris's head as well. Or I probably should be saying, first and foremost, his mother's head. From the way that I read the Sonichu Wiki and what I see on YouTube, Chris's mom seems to be the one who's mostly at fault, it seems. It is very much agreed upon that she had much more influence on Chris than his father did. Before Chris was arrested, when he lived with his mom, I've heard that whenever she wanted something out of him, and if Chris said no to her, she would act a bit upset and needy until Chris finally gave in and did what she asked him to do. So, it seems to me like she's the one who has the final say in everything, it seems. I also heard rumors that Chris's mom now suffers from dementia, and from the outside, it looks like karma has finally caught up to her, but it hasn't, because allegedly she seems to be using it to her advantage. Whenever Chris used to film her for YouTube, she would pretend to be even more mentally unstable so that people would be even more inclined to donate to her and Chris. Or so it is believed. Now, since we're on the topic of Chris's mom, I would like to mention that Chris has a half-brother. Chris's mom is the same mom to Chris's half-brother. In an email from Chris's half-brother to Chris, he expressed to Chris how he's had bad experiences with her. Later on in Chris's life, Chris too would admit, I think to a troll, that his mom, at times, wasn't so nice to him. And, if it is true that Chris's mom wasn't very nice to them, to anybody, to Chris, his half-brother, to her husband and other people, then I think it is quite poetic that she herself got screwed over by the very Frankenstein monster that she herself created. Sweet, poetic justice. You reap what you sow. But the topic of Chris's mom aside, as for his father, Chris's father was a sound-minded engineer slash inventor slash patent owner, but then when he met Chris's mom, things went downhill for him. When I take a look at Chris's backstory with his father, I don't get the impression that Chris's father was very much involved in his son's life. It seems to me like Chris's mother was the one who influenced Chris much more than his father. It's a shame, really, because Chris's father did all he could to steer Chris in the right direction, but he couldn't. I read up on Chris's parents, and yeah, in the way that I interpret all of this, one of the reasons why Chris don't know how to be nice properly is not entirely the fault of his autism, but is also because of the fact that Chris grew up in an environment where he has had too many bad people and experiences in his life. I am of the belief that if, let's say, there is a boy that grows up in an environment where all the adults are stupid, then consequently, that boy is going to grow up and be a stupid adult he too. So it goes. And I think Chris was very much affected by his environment. I do believe all of these terrible life experiences growing up, and later on the trolls in his adult life, left Chris with quite the impression. It may have formed an impression on him that the world is out to get him, that the world is deliberately conspiring against him. Chris's autism did play half a part in why he can't be nice all the time, and why he flies off the handle at times. And as Chris has autism, he isn't trained or coached on how to deal with bad people or trolls. So, instead of dealing with the trolls correctly, Chris escapes to the world of fiction as a defense mechanism. But if Chris didn't do so willingly, he may have done so on a subconscious level, without completely realizing that he may have chosen video games over real life, because he doesn't know what to do. Or maybe he's in denial. Or maybe Chris doesn't want to confront those old demons from the past when he was a kid slash teen slash young adult, because he doesn't know how, it seems. Maybe he wants to believe so badly that, as he is the victim of all of this, maybe he thinks that's what makes him the ultimate winner. Just like Jesus on the cross, maybe. But you know, Chris, how can you see yourself as a victim or as a winner when you get kicked out and banned from different places, and then, eventually, you end up in jail? I'm just asking. Over the years, as Chris has been bullied, trolled, and scammed, Chris may have believed that whoever is trying to be nice to him may be a potential troll, like so many others, except for all the girls in the world. From my understanding, Chris is very compliant and nice to girls, but not on the same level to guys, which I think is sexist and selective. And Chris doesn't realize this. Not that I am going to repeat the same thing I said in my previous episode, but Chris may be under the impression that autism is a thing that only happens to girls and can never happen to guys. Maybe Chris thinks, well, if I am super nice to girls and never to guys, then I can't be a sadist. I can't be a bad person because I'm doing so many good things for girls, like giving them money and stuff. If this is what Chris is thinking, then it is no accident that he turned a lot of girls off and came off as a creeper and a stalker. It doesn't seem to me like Chris's parents had ever had a sit down and talk moment to him. That girls aren't really like that. And just like guys, girls too can do some nasty things. Like bullying. Like, there was this one girl that locked Chris under a crawl space under her house when they were kids. Now, under normal circumstances, a normal kid would eventually come to terms with the reality that girls can do the same things that guys can. But those traumatic episodes flew over Chris's head. Chris did not come to terms with that reality, even after what happened between him and that girl. And a few more girls. Chris continuously believed that girls are whatever he thinks they are, that they can do no wrong. Maybe Chris believed or believes that girls are these cute looking creatures that are hopping up and down on the hills, looking sweet and innocent or something. But Chris's parents didn't seem to explain to Chris what girls are really like. And they didn't explain to him that there are some bad people out there with bad intentions. Not just some guys, but some girls too can have bad intentions. And a lot of people saw this with the disgusting fungus girl. Chris's ultimate troll. I don't want to mention her by name because I get the impression that she's an attention seeker. So I don't want to be too specific with her details. Chris's parents should have hired a social coach for him, or put him through a coaching program, or whatever it's called. If there's anything like that at all, I actually don't know. Somebody who can teach Chris about the world, its people, how to be independent and what have you. Chris's aging parents aren't going to be around all the time, or rather, his father has long since passed away. His mother is 80 years old, but if Chris's parents aren't going to say something, or address his misguided beliefs, or teaching about stuff, then someone is going to take advantage of that blind spot, pull Chris's strings around, and it already has happened, by the way. Several times it has happened. But hey, it's not always been trolls and bullies in Chris's life. Some people have tried to do the right thing for him, have tried to be direct with him, and it doesn't work. Chris seems to be ignoring those people, or sometimes he mislabels them as trolls. And since telling Chris up front that he needs to go outside some more and maybe exercise doesn't work, some people had to be sneaky in their approach. Like, there was this one video Chris produced called Sonic Shoes Edge, which was a video of Chris going outside, imitating the video game Mirror's Edge, where he ran around in different locations and what have you. And as I am in the making of this episode of Analyzing Christian, from April to May 2022, I have not yet played Mirror's Edge, so I don't know what Chris tried to imitate, but I'm guessing trolls asked Chris to do a Mirror's Edge video because they wanted him to lose weight. Sneaky. And this is what I'm trying to say with that some people had to be a bit sneaky when they tried to help him. But other than that, there have been some people that have tried to be nice to Chris and help him out. They tried to tell him things like, hey, if you want nice things to happen to you, you need to do this, this and that. But sadly, because of the reality that Chris had had a messy upbringing, alongside with having autism, and he's been tricked and deceived by a lot of people over the years so many times, Chris cannot tell the difference between who's really trying to be nice to him, who's trying to help him, and who's trolling him. So I think Chris plays the victim as a consequence. Chris is infamous as the most trolled person on the internet, and that is no accident. All of the bullying and all the trolling that Chris went through in his life could have been avoided. It could have. When Chris was growing up, his parents put him through neurotypical schools and programs, and I'm thinking, maybe Chris's parents believed so badly that if Chris attended neurotypical classes as the only autistic, then maybe Chris would surely adapt and become a normal kid. They may have thought, but no, Chris doesn't play that game, because as most people know, adaptability is an alien thing for Chris. I believe Chris is one of those autistics that don't want to adapt to a new environment, try something new, or move to a new location. If you try to force that on Chris, then I think it put Chris in a panic mode, which leads up to him just getting all pissy and stampy, and that's not a good public image. So no, I don't think putting Chris through a neurotypical school and program was a good idea back then. It was not. It was not a good idea. I think it caused more harm than good. In fact, I would also argue that it is also bad to let Chris go outside at all. Every time I see on YouTube how Chris goes outside to events, bars, classes, or conventions, Chris ends up almost always ruining it for everybody else. He makes a clown out of himself. So, before Chris's parents should have put him through first grade as a kid, I think his parents should have assigned a social coach for him first and foremost. Or alternatively, Chris's parents themselves should have taught him. Chris is their kid after all, and both his parents were still living together even in their old ages. They never divorced. Another thing that interconnects with the main topic of Chris and niceness is that Chris, from the way I see this, is bad at making first impressions. Chris unintentionally rubs people the wrong way, and because he doesn't know how to be nice back to people, especially in the right way, people feel uncomfortable when they meet him or see his videos, or when he used to walk around with his attraction sign trying to pick up girls. And naturally, security had to kick him out, ban him, and so Chris poetically curled up in a ball and wants everything to just go back to normal and fix itself. So, today's listeners, viewers, everything that I relayed thus far is my point of view and opinion to why Chris, I think, in his adult life, as a kid, young adult, and in the present day, has had a lot of trouble in how to be nice to people. And I think it is not solely because of his autism. I don't think so. It also has to do with his environment, I believe. And this is basically all I wanted to say for today. Apart from when I said not solely because of his autism and social coach, I hope this time, today's episode, I didn't repeat myself too much now. I had a problem with repeating myself a little bit too much in my previous episode, but I hope I rectify that problem a little bit. But anyways, today's listeners, you will hear from me again maybe next week or next month. So take care and bye bye for now.